going on, everybody? Well, people seem to have opinions about this movie. So for those unaware, last weekend was the release of the highly anticipated remake of one of Disney's beloved classics, Lilo and Stitch. Yes, I did just say that there was a highly anticipated Disney remake. If you're watching this in the future and the Disney remakes are just as shitty as they are now, you may be shocked to hear that a lot of us, including myself, were actually kind of excited for this one. Again, if you're watching this in the future, I think most of that has to do with the fact that the trailer for this movie was actually decent to kind of good. It looked cute, and let's just be honest with ourselves, we are all obsessed with this little blue fur ball. And yes, that includes myself, because not only did I go out and buy one collectible Stitch popcorn bucket, but I ended up buying a completely different one as well. Guys, look at this. It's a little plushie holding this bowl. It is so cute. I had to have it. Plus, the night was winding down. It was the last one they had, so I was all like, screw it, I'm gonna buy it. And look at this. He has a little tuft of hair. Isn't that cute? Look at it, it's so cute. It's so fuzzy. I love it. Hell, in the time it took me to talk about that bucket, they probably made 50 more items to put Stitch's face on. There's a Stitch toilet seat now, isn't there? Yeah, I'm not even shocked by that, guys. Wait a minute. Ew! It looks like the hole is his mouth. Wait a minute. Are we supposed to sit on Stitch's face? Damn freaky! But once the film finally released, people's opinions were very much split, and as to my knowledge, a damn good majority of them seemed to be negative, with a lot of people saying that it missed the point of what made the original so special. I'm sorry, but have you never seen a Disney remake before? That is almost common fucking sense at this point. As for my thoughts on the film, for those who didn't see my review, to keep it short and simple, while I didn't think it was great or anything, and nowhere near as good as the original, I thought it was enjoyable for what it was, while still being very flawed as hell. But despite the fact that I saw the movie a couple days before its initial release, I saw some of the reactions to this film coming a mile away. And that's mostly what we're here to talk about today. Yep, despite being based on an already well-known movie, this is gonna be a spoiler talk for the live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch. Yeah, I honestly can't believe I'm saying that there are spoilers to this movie of all things, but there are a few major changes from the original, especially when it comes to the ending, which I know a lot of you are not happy about. And to make sure my opinion didn't change or anything, I did decide to go see the movie again since, well, it had been like a week and a half since I first saw it, and I wanted to know if my opinion changed or not. And I'll just say this right up front, having seen the movie twice now, there is still a lot of things I really need to talk about, especially with that third act, and something you guys probably didn't pick up on involving said third act. So if you haven't gotten a chance to see the new Lilo and Stitch and have an interest in seeing it with no spoilers, or you haven't been on the internet for the past week, you have been warned. And I will say that any positive I had in my original review still remains positive after the second viewing. With that said, why did you have to go and do Jumba like that, man? So I mentioned this in my first review, but the entire time I was watching the first half of this movie, I really couldn't figure out how they were going to do the ending without Captain Gantu. And once we get to the scene where Jumba is destroying the house, it's not exactly revealed, but just kinda like plays out to where he is the villain. And I really do mean it when I say that I did not pick up at all that this is where they were going until we got to that scene. Even when Jumba and Pleakley were relieved of their duties and Jumba says that he's gonna do it his way, it still did not click with me that he was our bad guy because that all happens in the original as well. It did start to click with me, however, when he was destroying the house and I started to realize that, man, he's acting a lot more dickish and just straight mean here. And I was like, oh no. And even after the second viewing, I still hated this choice like most of you, and my big reason for that is that Jumba, even in the original film, would not do half the stuff this Jumba does, and just like I said in my original review, this really, not even really ruins, but just destroys the continuity of everything else Lilo and Stitch. So when it comes to Jumba in the original movie, he was tasked with capturing or even taking out Stitch any way he could. Which in the case of that last one, he can't really do because, well, Stitch is indestructible. But despite his duties, he still cared for Stitch because he was one of his 626 creations, and you can definitely see that in some parts of Stitch has a glitch. And on top of that, while he was destroying her house and everything, he never had any intention of hurting Lilo. Even when she was beating on him, he just pushed her out of the way, not wanting to get her hurt. Even later when Nani runs into Jumba and Pleakley and she's asking where's Lilo, he still feels bad because he didn't want to hurt her because he had no intention of hurting her. He just wanted his creation back because he got sick of hunting him down. And then, the movie even wraps up with him and Pleakley moving in with Nani and Lilo and giving them Christmas presents dressed as Santa. And then in other Lilo and Stitch projects like the sequel or the TV series, there are times that they'll refer to him as Uncle Jumba. Now everything I just said about Jumba and everything else Lilo and Stitch is completely butchered in this new version. This new version of Jumba does not care an ounce about Stitch, despite the fact that he created him, and once him and Pleakley are fired, he doesn't care who gets hurt at this point, including Lilo, and he just straight up becomes the villain. And since I knew about all this going into my second viewing, I of course decided to pay a lot closer attention to this character, and from everything I saw, he was not the same Jumba from the original from the beginning. In the original, even when him and Pleakley were searching for Stitch, Jumba was still a little jokey here and there, and even grew a friendship with Pleakley as the film went on. This new Jumba, however, found Pleakley to be kind of a nuisance, and all around just wanted to destroy his own creation, and was annoyed with everything in the process for no reason. Not only is that not the Uncle Jumba that we all know and love, but to quote himself, "This is low even for you!" And what also hurts about this is that once they were revealing what all the aliens in this movie were going to look like, I was like, man, I'm really excited to see Jumba. I want to know what Jumba's gonna look like. And I saw him, I was all like, that's Jumba. That is the Jumba I know. And then he's the villain, and also Zach Galifianakis' voice does not match the character, and you blew it! You goddamn blew it! This is low even for you! Bah! There's another aspect involving Jumba being the villain that I really need to talk about, but to talk about that, we also gotta mention the other aspect of this movie that people are just completely hating on, Nani giving up Lilo in the end. I'm just gonna say this right off the bat, I don't know if it's people who have actually seen the movie or people who have not seen the movie yet and are just going based off of what others are saying online, or a mixture, but everyone is blowing this scene out of goddamn proportions. For those somehow unfamiliar with Lilo and Stitch, the whole message of the film is about family, but most importantly, Ohana, and how nobody gets left behind or forgotten. And in the original, it ends with Lilo, Nani, and Stitch staying together as one big happy family. But at the end of this remake, Nani ends up giving Lilo over to the state in the foster care system so she can go over to the mainland to study marine biology, despite the University of Hawaii having a good program for that is much cheaper. Oh, that's not something they say in the movie, that's actually true, Google it. And I know what I just said sounds really fucked up, but anytime I've heard someone talk about this online, there are a lot of key aspects that they leave out. First off, Nani in no way just handed Lilo over to the state all willy-nilly just so she can go to college. She actually fought to keep custody of Lilo and stay with her, but due to the fact that she really couldn't take care of Lilo, and even herself for that matter, especially with her house being burned down and a hospital bill that she couldn't pay because they don't have health care, she wasn't thinking about herself, but what was best for her sister because she couldn't provide for her. Second, the state was probably going to hand over Lilo to some people she didn't know, but then the neighbor lady talked with the social worker, and her and David are going to take care of Lilo as her guardians with Nani's approval. And despite being in a new home, Lilo is staying with people that she knows, Nani can come visit anytime she wants, and since their house is being rebuilt, now Lilo has a place to stay. As for the college thing, Nani told Lilo that she was going to stay with her no matter what because she was her responsibility, but Lilo reminds her that their parents wanted her to pursue her dreams. So yes, Nani does go off to college, but she does it so she can make a better life for herself, but most importantly Lilo, and so she can make her parents proud in the process. So while it would have been better if Nani stayed in Hawaii with Lilo to find a way to provide for her, even if it involved asking for some help, in some ways, this was the better option. Again, Lilo goes to stay with, let's be honest, people she's probably known for years, seeing how she's only 6 years old, and not just some randos that she just never met. Now, I will say, the only thing that kind of ruins my defense of this whole scene is that in the original, when Cobra came to take Lilo away when the house blew up, Nani did try to stop him from taking her, and she's like, no, she needs me! I'm the only one that understands her! And here she really didn't try. Well, shit, I guess no matter what I say, people are still gonna be kind of mad at this. But honestly, if you look at this Lilo and Nani over the animated Lilo and Nani, it seems like live action Lilo and Nani had more problems than the animated ones. But with all of that, a lot of people are saying that this misses the whole purpose of Ohana, and it's pretty meaningless in this version. What if I was to tell you that this is not even the first time that something like this has happened in a Lilo and Stitch property? And it involved Lilo giving up Stitch? Let me explain. So some of you might not be familiar with this, but there is a Lilo and Stitch Japanese anime called Stitch, which was a sequel series to the Disney Channel series. In this anime, Stitch is upset because Lilo abandons him for a boyfriend, so he decides to run away. This then leads him to Japan, where he finds another little girl named Yuna, and they all have a bunch of adventures and whatnot. Guys, give me a break. I saw one episode of this show and that's it. I don't know what it's really about. But upon doing research for this anime, I did find out that there was an episode in this series titled Lilo, in which Stitch is reunited with Lilo and her daughter that looks exactly like her, and she explains that there was a misunderstanding and she never left Stitch for some dick. But despite making up and being reunited, Lilo tells Stitch that he's found a new family in Japan and he should stay with them. By the way, his new family, just from this clip I saw, still consists of Jumba and Pleakley. I don't know, I haven't seen the show. How the hell did they get there? I kind of want to know. I'm curious, is this a good show or not? But what I'm trying to say here is that this live action remake isn't even close to the first time that some property in this franchise has said fuck Ohana. Also, if anyone tries to tell you that watching grown-up Lilo and Stitch say bye-bye made me very emotional and teary-eyed, they're liars. Fucking liars, man.
Bye-bye, Lilo.
Bye. Come on, honey.
Bye, Stitch. I'm glad I finally met you.
Excuse me, I need a moment. So, due to my little moment, I accidentally tripped over the plug-in to one of my LED lights, ripping the fucking thing, whatever the hell is, USB plug-in, whatever fucker thing. I tripped over it, ripping it out of the wall and whatever. So, yeah, if my lighting is fucked up for the rest of the video, you know why. I need new lights anyway. But when it comes to everyone's complaints with Jumba as the villain and Nani giving up Lilo, there is one thing or person I have never heard anyone brought up anytime they talk about these two aspects of this movie, that being the Grand Councilwoman. Trust me when I say, she plays a big role in all of this. When it comes to Jumba in the original, before she sent him and Pleakley to Earth to capture Stitch, Jumba was imprisoned, so in return for the capture of Stitch, the Grand Councilwoman was going to grant him his freedom from prison. But in the remake, however, she doesn't do that. So even if Jumba captured Stitch the moment they got to Earth, he was going to prison no matter what. So without any motivation or any reward, Jumba really had no choice but to become the bad guy, hence why he probably didn't care about Stitch towards the end. Now when it came to Nani giving up Lilo, I actually had to go back to the animated one to figure this one out. Because in between the house blowing up, Cobra taking Lilo escaping, and then the whole chase involving Gantu, I couldn't at all remember what changed Cobra's mind in the end. Well really, he didn't. What happened was that the Grand Councilwoman not only let Stitch finish his sentence out on Earth, but since Nani and Lilo were the ones keeping an eye on him, she put them under the protection of the alien government, meaning that they could stay together, and Cobra had no say in it. And I know I made it out to sound that Cobra was one of the bad guys in the animated film, but he wasn't, because he wanted to see Nani succeed, and he was relieved in the end that he didn't have to take Lilo away. In this new version, she says Stitch can stay, and that's it. So yeah, if you want to blame anyone in the actual movie for all of this, blame the Grand Councilwoman. This is all your fault! Screw you, Grand Councilwoman! You're the reason this movie is worse than cancer! And I guess on top of that, blame the neighbor lady for pushing Nani through the entire movie to go to college. And you know what? That's another thing. It's not just the whole Nani giving up Lilo thing that everyone's blowing out of proportion, it's just this entire movie in general. Despite being a Disney remake, some people were just so overconsumed by their nostalgia of the original that people were really expecting this movie to be so great. But I'm gonna be honest, aside from the third act and a few flaws here and there, I have really heard no one complain about anything else throughout the first two acts of this movie. With that said, when it comes to my second thoughts on this movie, I'm not gonna lie and say that I didn't see a few more issues this time around, and I still was not a big fan of that third act, but my opinion pretty much stays the exact same as it did in my original review. I enjoyed the first two acts, but the third act is really what brought it down for me. Before I get into all my new negatives, I will let you know that any positives I had in my original review all remain positive after this viewing. Maya Kaluuya is still adorable, and she pretty much makes this movie. Stitch is still Stitch, and despite what you might think about the outcome at the end, I still believe these two as sisters. Nani and Lilo to be exact, not Lilo and Stitch being sisters. Now, one major issue I did have previously that I did not mention verbally in my last review was them removing Stitch's ugly duckling storyline completely, which is a very important scene in the original. In the animated version, Stitch has no purpose due to the fact that he has nothing to destroy, which was his original purpose. So because of that, he grows an attachment to the story of the ugly duckling because, like Stitch himself, the duckling was an outcast who was lost, and he eventually found where he belonged, which was with his family.
Then the ugly duckling is happy because he knows where he belongs.
Stitch, not knowing the idea of family, aside from Lilo bringing up Ohana, learns what it means from this story. And yeah, all that shit's gone here, and the way he does learn about family is so bland and forgettable, I really can't tell you how he did learn about it, so by the end of the movie, it feels like he only learned what family was because he learned it in the original. And yes, of course, this is another case where Disney relies on you to have seen the original because things and references do pop up that were actually pivotal things in the original. Remember how Lilo showed the other girl Scrump and they all thought she was weird because of the description she gave her, leading to Lilo throwing Scrump on the ground, only to come back and pick her up because Scrump meant so much to her? Yeah, Scrump is just here with no rhyme or reason. I don't even know if Lilo ever said her name. You also gotta love how Disney always tries to advertise these as the more adult version, and not only is that just a lie, but some of these live action remakes play it so safe that the more adult version ends up being the original animated one. And you know what? That's exactly the case here. While the big saving grace of this movie is Lilo and Stitch, I noticed on the second viewing that they're a little off here. The whole thing about Lilo's character in the original was that she was weird, imaginative, violent, and an all-around oddball, but the Lilo in this remake, however, while still acted very well by Maya Kaluuya, is more just quirky. And while that's not at all a bad thing, it does feel like kind of a downgrade when you compare it to Lilo in the original. A good example of this, and then playing it too safe, is that in the original, Nani's helping Lilo tell Cobra Bubbles how good her parenting has been, but then it somehow turns when Lilo starts saying that Nani is disciplining her with a pillowcase full of bricks.
Sometimes 5 times a day.
And while that is not at all true, it is a pretty messed up thing to say, and it does make Nani realize that she's screwed up in demonstrating this to Lilo. In this one, however, the big thing that makes Nani realize that she's screwed up is that Lilo says that she's been eating too much. Well, that's fucking lame. Have it be that Nani's shooting her with a paintball gun or something. I mean, it's not true, but it's a lot funnier and a more reasonable reason as to why Nani had that reaction. Now, when it comes to Stitch in this new version, I still stand by that it feels like he's the same character from the animated movie, but I noticed on second viewing that he really isn't the violent little shit that he once was. In the original, once Lilo and Nani adopt him, he's still growling, hurting people, destroying the house, and even attempts to bite off Pleakley's head in one scene. In the remake, however, I noticed that he's less violent and just a lot more playful and eccentric. Which is fine and all, but it kind of defeats the purpose of the original, where he's this violent creation made for destruction who, through the movie, learns to be less destructive. And yes, I know he destroys the house in this version as well, but I don't know, something here about it just felt kind of off. Maybe it was the fact that he didn't scratch up the wall. Hell, even when he steals that pink car that's in all the advertisements, we don't actually see him throw the girl out of it like he did Myrtle in the original. And by the way, it's 2025. Why the hell are we still playing Uptown Funk in movies? The Chipmunks did it over a decade ago, and it was probably overused then. The fact that I remember they even did that. Was it Uptown Funk or Uptown Monk? Because if it wasn't Uptown Monk, missed opportunity. Oh, and before I do forget, this video is also brought to you by Capri Sun. There is a lot of Capri Sun product placement in this movie. It gets to the point where Capri Sun is almost just a straight up cameo here. Also, there was a fun little Easter egg I noticed when they see the picture of Lilo adopting Stitch. It says that she adopted him on June 26th, which comes out to be 626. I like that. And honestly, it still dumbfounds me how not only Disney keeps missing the point of what made the animated classics so special, despite them being the ones to make them, but somehow in this day and age, people will still go out and say that animation is only strictly for kids because these live action films are a great example of showing that animation is definitely for all ages. The reason people go to see these live action remakes sometimes is because they love the animated original, but Disney usually misses the point with these and plays it way too safe that the animated version not only remains superior, but is actually the more adult version. Yes, there are movies and shows that are strictly for kids, but that's why when we have a film that is for all ages, we usually use the term family film. I'm sorry, but after a 10 out of 10 masterpiece like Across the Spider-Verse, there is no reason to say that animation is only for kids because despite that film's PG rating, it is honestly more adult than a lot of movies targeted towards adults. The same can be said for elements of the original Lilo and Stitch. Behind the cutesy fun stuff with Lilo and Stitch is a very adult and tragic story of two sisters on the verge of being split apart due to the loss of their parents, and the way they tackle the idea of family or ohana and what it means is handled a lot better than it is in this live action remake. I'm telling you guys, there are way too many great examples of movies that are targeted towards kids and families, but are as much for adults as they are for kids. I would say another great example would be Studio Ghibli's Whisper of the Heart, but I'm honestly not going to go into detail with that one because Shay Farillis already made a phenomenal video detailing every single key element of that movie to the point where, if I was to say anything, I wouldn't be doing the film justice. So do go check that video out if you have the time. Honestly, the more I think about it, I could probably do a top 10 list one day of animated movies that are for all ages. So after my second viewing, I can say that while my opinion has changed slightly, I think the movie overall is still a good enough time for one viewing. But now having seen it twice, I don't think I ever really need to watch it again. Before coming into this video, part of me wanted to say, yeah, if you have any interest in seeing this, I'd say wait for streaming, watch the first 2 acts, and then turn it off once Jumba enters the dog pound because that's where the movie really goes downhill. But then I was all like, what the hell is the point of that when there's already a perfectly good 10 out of 10 movie right here? And a sequel. And a TV series. And an anime that I've never seen that might be good. I don't know, is it bad, good? I don't know, tell me. I do believe that out of every Lilo and Stitch property released in America, this has definitely got to be the weakest, but I still think that it's enjoyable for what it is despite its many, many flaws, and I still think it's one of the better Disney remakes. And look, everyone is entitled to their opinions, but I seriously do mean it when I say I think some people out there are taking their hate of this film and blowing it way out of proportion because, come on guys, there's worse movies out there, and definitely worse Disney remakes. Seriously, how many of you actually saw Snow White and did not just go online to review bomb it? That's what I thought. And I say this to Disney. If you really can't see what makes your animated classics so special to people, here, educate yourself! I have 3 more copies where that came from. I actually had to search for the VHS tape. I knew I had it, I just didn't know where the hell it was at. And before I started recording, I thought coming into this video that my grade was going to stay exactly the same from last time, but since I did find a lot more issues this second time, I'm going to be lowering my grade from a B to a B-. And despite enjoying this movie enough, Disney, I beg of you, show us something inside of you that is really freaking good. That'll do. I don't know, I think it looks cute. And I know everyone usually has their answers for what they think are the few good Disney remakes, but I thought about something the other day. If Disney owns Fox, can we all agree that West Side Story is the best Disney remake? I mean, it's not based off an animated film, but it's still a remake, and Pete's Dragon was mostly live action, so Also, David straight up said that he wanted to shred Nani like some waves. Dude, it's a fucking family movie. I know both of you thirsty as all hell, but there are kids watching, man. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, turn on the notification bell, and while you're at it, go follow me on Instagram, Letterboxd, and TikTok at Trev's Movies, and I'll be back later with more reviews, and I'll see you then.